And of course, we've all been there, you know, we've had success in our life and then we decided to celebrate. Sometimes we go to the karaoke and sometimes we go to the steamboat and sometimes we eat a bit too much. You know, at the end of our celebration night, we kind of feel like there's a something hot rising in our stomach.
In your stomach, right? Like a weird feeling. Or even when you're so busy with work and then you just don't get to eat. Actually, that is something that I can totally relate to. If my mom is watching this, she's probably like, yep, I told you so.
I told you so, definitely.
I told you so.
Because it is something that is affecting a lot of people, 1 in 3 people, in fact, actually, according to the WHO. And of course, it is affecting a lot of Malaysians as well. So it is good to have not just the expert, but also someone who has gone through this condition. So let's introduce our guest to our viewers right now, ARENE.
Yes, of course. So, of course, for today, we're going to be talking about, as NABIL mentioned as well, 1 in 3 people experiencing. So the rise on gastroesophageal reflux disease in Malaysia. And of course, we are really happy to, of course, have our assistant professor, TS Dr. Tan Chung KEAT, associate professor, head in medicine and health sciences, and John Lai, founder and also, I want to say, recovered patient from food-based solution provider. So hello, hi, nice to have you guys both. Now, John, you're a recovered patient, right?
Yes,
have you
can still
recovered already?
Yeah.
First question.
I think I have recovered, but it still largely depends on your dietary habit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you had a very terrible dietary habit, the symptoms will always reoccur.
Okay, so we're going to come back to that in a bit, right? So we just want to know, if John is doing good, you're here, we're happy to have you here. We're going to come back to your whole recovery phase and, of course, talk more about the food-based solution thing that you're looking at as well. So we'll definitely come back to it. So, of course, we want to start off by, Doctor, the first thing, right? Of course, we want to know what is it all about. Tell us everything we need to know.
Okay, so basically what you mentioned just now, 1 in the 3 is about gut disorders that almost everyone having nowadays. And what we're discussing today on GERD is a more specific type of the gut disorders. So the symptoms including the acid reflux, regurgitations, indigestions, they are very typical symptoms of GERD. So in Malaysia, almost 1 in the 10 are suffering from this due to our modern lifestyle, etc., and the unhealthy dietary habits. And the trends on the rise in the recent years, they have been almost double in the past 30 years. So it's definitely on the rise, and many people are looking for a way to actually prevent it from happening. Because currently the treatments can never treat it for permanently. Unless you go for a surgical approach. So nowadays people are more in favor of looking for natural prevention approach in preventing it from happening.
John, it's very interesting because Dr. Tan just now mentioned lifestyle. And you said that now your condition depends on your lifestyle. Maybe you can shed some light on how did it happen to you? What was the lifestyle that caused GERD or GERD to happen?
So I think back when, before COVID actually broke out, I had a very irregular eating hours. So it could be sometimes 8 p.m., sometimes 6 p.m.
You mean like your
skip
first
dinner.
meal?
Probably first meal or dinner.
Wow, okay.
Of the day?
First meal of the day, 8 p.m.
So that doesn't happen every day. It's just at times where, you got work and your day is going on and then you just forgot. So to a certain point of time, then I started feeling a burning sensation over the throat. So at one point, I was suspecting it to be something cardiology, something like heart problem, disease like that. That was when I first found out that it was actually called acid reflux, in other words, GERD. So it was largely due to irregular eating hours and also spicy food mainly, and also coffee.
Wow.
So I have a very terrible metabolism when it comes to metabolizing coffee.
Can I know, John, how much coffee did you consume back then?
No, I'm not a coffee heavy drinker.
Oh, okay.
But it's just every time I go for Americano, the black coffee, it tends to get a bit acidic.
Sure.
Then there's a reaction in the gut. That's how bad it was. And I think worst of all, sometimes it affected your sleep. right? When you try to sleep, you actually have to be in a slanted position. Otherwise, you will just keep feeling the sensation, and it's pretty, pretty disrupting.
I guess, actually, I do want to say, because I did share that I occasionally have gastric. Okay, occasionally it was very, very bad, but I managed to you know, also similar to what John used to do. I think my first meal was also like 8 p.m. or 5 in the evening, you know, first meal. And of course, it's not healthy. I'm not promoting this at all. But it's somewhat similar. And I experienced gastric, right? But Dr. Tan, I do want to ask you, is it different, GERD and gastritis? Because oftentimes we also have the same symptoms like heartburn, you know, a bit of discomfort, pain. Yeah, how different is it?
It's a bit of difference. Okay, so GERD, the general symptoms is including indigestions, regurgitations. Regurgitation means the traveling of the food back into your mouth again, okay, or acid reflux that goes out. Gastritis is mainly on the secretions of the gastric juice in the stomach, overstimulating because of you didn't eat in time, on time, and then actually the triggers keep on happening because it's giving you a signal to eat, but you're not eating it, so it keep on secreting the gastrics. So it's a bit different. So GERD is like irregular eating habits. So when they eat, they cannot digest, or mainly it's happened after they eat. Gastritis is mainly before they eat. The mechanism is somehow similar. If those that are suffering acid reflux, they also have a higher density to have more gastric juice that's secreted in the gut. The mechanism is somehow similar. Triggers is a bit different. The times that it happen also a bit different. Yeah.
Oh, I see. So the only way we could probably know is have to go to like a specialist.
Yes. Symptoms. Okay. Gastritis normally will be more on the sensual pain in the stomachs, maybe reflux some of the time, but you may not have problem with indigestion, regurgitations. You might not be facing that frequently.
Okay, Dr. Tan, I've got, I guess, a couple of questions for you. I guess, first of all, to anyone who's watching and are experiencing what John Lai has experienced before. I wonder what should they do? What are the options of treatments that they have? And you mentioned something about, is this like a lifelong condition? Because there's no permanent treatment.
Lifelong condition is because of the lifestyle. So the common cause of GERD is due to the changes in the lifestyle. That you don't eat on time, or you like spicy food, or you are caffeine lovers. So all this unhealthy lifestyle actually the trigger is it from keep on coming back. And normally people don't take it seriously because the symptom is not really that bad. Okay, some of the time you may experience some chest pain, indigestion on and off. People don't take it seriously. So what we have at the moment in the markets or in the clinic practice, you can get the antacid to neutralize the acid from over the counter. Clinic, you may get proton pump inhibitors or histamine 2 blockers. So these are the things, the medication that actually slow down the secretion of the acid. But this is something that is on the symptoms. So that means you take it when the symptom comes, but it cannot prevent it from happening. So it's not a really permanent solution. So when the symptom comes, you take it, and you have to stop it when the symptom goes. Because if you keep on taking it, you will build up the tolerance, and later on, it won't work on you anymore. Okay? And if you don't treat it, you left it without treated, you get worse. So the chronic stimulation or inflammation in the gut will slowly develop into something more serious. For example, gut cancer. So it all started from inflammation, and chronic inflammation will lead to cancer. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Very interesting, doctor, that you shared all this, and of course, having to seek treatment, or even if you experience some symptoms, some medication that you can probably buy over the counter to ease it off at first, right? But definitely, there's also something that has to be done from an individual's perspective. What are the actions that you would have to take, like changing of lifestyle? So, John, coming back to you, right? How was your whole treatment phase like? Do share with us about like the treatment process, not to say process, but your journey of recovering, and as well as your changes in the lifestyle, and what were the most significant changes that you actually made?
Like what doctor has just described, I think for a lot of our gut patients, they went through the similar phases of life, and the first thing they went to doctor, and we always get like antacids and PPI. So those were the times where I also have to cut down a lot of food I didn't know I cannot take, because such as spicy food, and even like if I take too much of raw meat, I will get bloated, indigestion, because those are like even raw sushi. So I just have to take in moderation during that period of time to cut down the acid reflux from recurring, and also stick to a meal plan.
Okay.
I'm gonna have a regular breakfast and lunch, dinner. So what I did was I had separated meal hours and have portion control. So I don't take too much at one period of time, but I take little in a longer frequency of time. And that did help very much. Yeah, so that alone changed the process.
So it's more of like changing of your eating habits, just what you consume as well. And I feel like a lot of people often have that difficulty because like, oh, I love spicy food, I have to eat spicy food every day, you know.
It's very interesting because all of a sudden you have to be so disciplined in order to, you know, curb the symptoms.
I also did find a big correlation to anxiety, to how that actually lead to acid reflux. Like those during the moment when you're anxious, you will feel, you tend to feel a bit more bloated. Some they are related because guts have the second nervous system other than the brain, right?
And apparently it was such a bad experience that you went on to found a food solutions for stomachs yourself.
Correct.
Because you're also the founder of Natom Natural Gut Health Food Solution.
Correct.
So maybe can you tell us about that journey? Because was it really because you just hate GERD so much that you actually went on to do some research?
That is one, of course. So being a GERD patient myself, clearly you still have solution that's readily available in the market. It's just I'm a bit more particular when it comes to taste. So antacids is definitely one of the best solutions out there, but I don't quite like the chemical taste of it. I'm someone who's more lean towards something that's more natural tasting, something, So during one of those trips itself in Europe, so I remember this when I was visiting Waita Food. So I was always going around to tour and always visiting other countries of what are the food options that they have that we don't really have in Malaysia, because I export something. And by chance, I stumbled upon this fermented soybean that they actually ferment the soybean with a bacteria called lactobacillus, and they use it to treat GERD.
Is that the one we always see on social media where it's like, it's very sticky?
Yeah, you can call it.
Natto.
Correct.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing it.
It's not tempeh.
Not tempeh. It's like natto. I don't know. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrongly, but I watch it a lot on TikTok. So is this like people eating like very sticky thing with rice?
It's a regular breakfast for Japanese.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the Japanese
staple.
culture, yes.
Yeah. So that was when I got truly excited about wanting to turn this into a readily product, because I felt like a lot of people are also suffering from this. And on top of taking readily medication, they would maybe like to explore something that's more natural, something that they can take daily as a breakfast. Yeah. So that is when I started the journey to found Atomi.
Oh, I see. And that is more of like, is it like a food delivery based service that you also have, or is it just, or I guess suggestion of some natural foods that you sell to people? How is it like?
I think of it like a supplementation of something that you would take before your heavier breakfast in the morning.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe you're on the go, like on a rush, and then you probably need to, you don't have time to grab a proper meal. So you can have something like this Natomi breakfast in the day, and when you have time only, you consume something more proper.
Okay, all right. It's really great that you also found something that helps not only for you, but also perhaps, more people, hundreds of people out there. And I do want to come back to Dr. Tan. Perhaps you can also tell us a bit about the food part of it, right? Because it all comes down to what you consume. Everything that you consume here affects here. So perhaps you can also share a bit about maybe some of the natural foods or any food that people should consume, people who maybe even experience symptoms of gastritis or GERD and stuff like that. What are some things that people should take and people should avoid?
I think let's go to the food that they should avoid. Okay, so basically, you have to avoid spicy food, caffeine, and as well as citrus. That means those that with a higher acidity food, like orange, lime, lemons, all these things that might trigger the secretion of the acid in the gut. So those are the things that we try to avoid. Other than that, you can eat like normal. Any individuals, whatever things you want to eat, you can still eat. Try to cut it down into small portion, but more frequently. Okay, instead of large portions and then long separation time, and that would be not healthy for your gut. And supplementations wise, I would recommend something that with fermented food. So fermented food, why is good? Because they have the bacteria actually fermented the soybean, okay, for anatomy cases. So these bacteria that culture in the product itself actually help to build out the gut microbiome profile in the gut. So this help to maintain the healthy ecosystem inside, as well as suppressing the inflammations. So even though you might have the acid secretion from time to time, it actually helps to minimize the damage to the lining of the gut. So taking supplementation is something that can be considered as well, especially for people who, like you mentioned just now, people who wanted to change their lifestyle, but it's very hard to change. Because like you yourself might be busy with the news reporting, etc. And it's very hard to eat on the time. So we have the supplementations on the go. Is like whenever you feel like you're skipping the food, maybe you take a supplementation will help you to prevent the symptoms from coming back again.
Okay, but now I'm curious because I mean we're Malaysian, we love our food, especially spicy food.
Especially spicy food.
But would you say that what John shared earlier about fermented soybeans? Would you and you mentioned that if perhaps they consume it before their actual meal, would you say that would help? Let's say, okay, I want to take fermented soybeans for something to help, like a supplement to help my gut, and then probably consume like spicy food or anything that I want. Would you say that would help?
We can on and off, not so frequent, but you can do that. Okay, so the way we treat GERD is that we try to, in the initial stages, we try to follow it very strictly. Okay, so cut down all these things. We try to lower down the frequency and severity of the episode of the reflux, etc. Then when the reflux episode is getting lesser, then you can be going back on the normal meal again. You can still eat your nasi lemak if you want. Then it's okay because the trigger is not so bad anymore. Then that time you can take maybe the fermented soybean before you're taking the nasi lemak. That definitely helps.
Okay, change of diet is also required.
Is everything what you consume, Nabil?
It is. And isn't that sad? Because I mean, obviously, when I hear that spicy food and caffeine, I mean, coffee is one of the leading contributors. That makes me sad because I love those things. But
we're not saying you can't consume it, right?
But
It's just like maybe in moderation, right?
Sure, yeah. I mean, and discipline actually came into the picture so much, especially for you, John. Maybe to those who are watching right now at home, maybe you can tell them if there are any last words that you can share with them regarding their gut conditions. What would you say to them, especially to those who are still in their teenage years, especially to the younger people?
Well, so personally, I do watch over my diet quite a fair bit, but we are all foodie, right?
Yes, exactly.
It's hard to really control yourself all the time of not reaching out to the food that we really like. So I guess the best advice also was the one that I've taken from Dr. Mahathir itself. It's truly like the secret of longevity, is to take food in moderation.
Yeah.
Don't get yourself too full. Maybe 70% is just nice. So I think that is the most important one, is to control your diet, but in the sense that don't eat what you eat to the fullest extent. Don't overeat.
Okay.
That's number one. And of course, you have to hydrate yourself all the time. Water helps in all senses, not just gut. And so personally, I also exercise quite regularly. I think that helps as well. So I think those are, and also the most important one would be to have an outlet for your emotional breakdowns, I guess. Because that is very closely tied to gastric and gastrointestinal problems. So you need to manage that well as well. So those will be the 4 best tips that I can give to anyone.
So emotional, it also affects you emotionally. Or either way, it's kind of like vice versa. Like if you're emotionally affected, that also gets affected, right?
Yes.
Like sometimes people who are depressed or not even depressed, like, upset, they don't eat and stuff like that. So it ruins their appetite. Okay, I totally understand where you're coming from.
No, actually, also it reminds me that because as an actor myself, people have been saying that sometimes when you are feeling a lot of emotions, your voice could come from your gut.
Exactly.
So I've heard about this connection between how you are feeling, your emotional condition, and also the condition of your gut. So that's very interesting. And your tips and advice, they are very, very simple to do. They're not very difficult. Drink more water. Just don't consume a lot at one time. Very, very practical. So
how about doctor from a more, I think in a more medical point of view?
Eat on time. That's very important. Eat on time. Having a very regular eating habit is very important for your gut. And I would say prevention is better than cure. Okay, don't let the disease or condition progress into a more severe stage, because when it does happen, it is very hard to reverse back the process. So prevent it from happening. Like today, we all know that over-consuming too spicy or too much of caffeine will hurt your gut. Then perhaps you have the mindset now, then you can stop taking it so much, over-consume it. So then I think this is very important to prevent it from happenings in future.
All right. So of course, it comes down to your lifestyle, guys. So at the end of the day, it's all what you consume. When do you consume it? When do you guys take your meals? It comes down to that. Even drinking water. Some people don't have the time to even grab a bottle and just, chug a glass of water or something like that. And
all right, yes. Thank you so much to Associate Professor T.S. Dr. Tan Chung KEAT, and also John Lai for coming to the studio and share with us about GERD, about GERD.